This week we are coming to you from the World Economic Forum at Davos, where despite a backdrop of economic uncertainty, felt especially by European participants, the overall feeling was upbeat. With developments in Tunisia and Egypt casting a long shadow, 2,500 leaders arrived at this year's World Economic Forum in Davos, facing the realities of a global power shift. Emerging markets are driving global growth, while the Eurozone is struggling.
Typically, the case of the Eurozone is not just sovereign risk, but also risk of further trouble. You have public debt that are high, but also private debt that are high. We have low competitiveness. We have low economic growth, actually outright contraction still in Spain, in Ireland, in Greece, and barely positive economic growth in Portugal and Italy.
I think Europe has to come fundamentally to grips with some of the problems that have not yet been addressed. Restructuring of the Greek debt, a bailout for Portugal, and probably a bigger rescue fund.
The theme of this year's event is responding to a new reality. And that reality is of a world divided.
I think there's a shift in the balance of economic and financial power from the West to the East. And that's reflected in the fact that last year emerging economies, which account for 1/3 of the global economy, driving 2/3 of global growth, that's quite impressive. And that's why I say when one looks at the glass, it's neither half full or half empty, it's 2/3 full.
As a result of this growth, the global economy is healthier than it was pre-recession, at over $62 trillion and predicted to double in real terms in 20 years, spurred on by emerging economies increasingly shunning the stagnating markets of the West and setting up new corridors of trade.
Over the last 5 to 6 years, you've seen an incredible growth in trade. So for instance, if you just look at Indo-Chinese trade, it's basically grown from being a couple of $1 billion to about $60 billion in less than 10 years. And that's set to grow to $100 billion by 2014.
Because of the rapid development of countries like China and India, they have a huge demand for shipping. In the 18th century, Europe was the centre of the world's shipping industry. And nowadays, ships tonnage in Europe has diminished gradually, and in Asia has increased exponentially. That means the centre of shipping has shifted to Asia.
It's not just trade ties being built, but physical infrastructure, connecting landlocked but resource-rich countries to their markets, especially those from Central Asia.
We are building up a number of huge infrastructure projects, such as a highway between Western China and Russia, 3.5 thousand kilometers. It's a huge project. We are building up 2 railways, one connection with China and one connection with Turkmenistan.
Delegates here talked about a 3-speed recovery led by the emerging markets, with the US and beleaguered Eurozone way behind. The rules have changed, new realities have set in.